What about me? DeAngelo Williams wants to know what about me. Well, what about us? Hi, guys. Lauren Shehadi alongside senior fantasy football writer Dave Richard. Dave, we're talking Week 5 football. We're talking DeAngelo Williams. He wanted to make his presence known in a very big way. 123 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. You're not sold, though, are you?
Not at all. DeAngelo Williams did have a great game. Did it against a Kansas City run defense that's really probably the second worst in the NFL, if not the worst. Detroit's right up there, too. But he still split carries with Jonathan Stewart. Williams had 20, Jonathan Stewart had 19. And the Panthers sat on the ball. They ran and ran and ran because they built this big lead thanks to DeAngelo Williams. Look, running backs are going to give you games like this from time to time, but look at what he did the first 4 weeks of his season, and you can tell that he's not going to give you consistent numbers over the course of the year. Lauren, I'd look at him as a 1-week replacement running back, maybe somebody you start when your main guy's on bye. I don't trust him, and I especially don't trust him next week going up at Tampa Bay.
So you're not impressed with DeAngelo Williams. Are you impressed with Clinton Portis? The Eagles got D, and Clinton Portis has game, especially on that 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter to just nail the game.
Yeah, and Clinton Portis was a guy we were high on all preseason long. It's great to see him come through. A 5.0 yard per carry average against the number 1 ranked Eagles run defense heading into the week. Really an outstanding performance. Took the pressure off of Jason Campbell to make a play. If you want to know why Santana Moss had a bad Week 5, it's because Clinton Portis went out there and put up a huge number. All of Portis' fantasy owners have to be thrilled, as are Redskins fans.
That's right. A big test for Portis and the Skins, and they passed. Larry Johnson didn't pass this week while going off last week against Denver. Is he streaky? Is he going to put up numbers at week in and week out?
Well, let's remember one thing here. He went into this game, he got 7 carries. And by the way, 200 yards over the last 2 weeks, not bad, but this isn't the way you want to see it done with 198 yards in 1 week and 2 yards in the next week. Okay, Carolina's run defense. Here's who they've stopped so far this season. LaDainian Tomlinson, Matt Forte, Adrian Peterson, Michael Turner, and now Larry Johnson. Stop me if you hear a name you'd want on your fantasy team, for crying out loud. These guys are good against the run, and that's why you've got to keep anybody that starts against the Carolina Panthers run defense off your fantasy lineup. This coming week, it's going to be Ernest Graham, so you've been warned if you've got Graham on your fantasy team. As for Larry Johnson, 7 carries. 7 carries, that's it. If my running back had 7 carries, I'd be fuming right now. This is a guy who should be getting 20 carries a week. He's the main guy in that offense in Kansas City. I don't know what Chan Gailey's thinking, but a lot of fantasy owners right now, they're not sure what to do about Larry Johnson. Just sit tight with him. You got a week with him anyway. He's on the bye, but in Week 7, he comes at home against Tennessee. I really don't like that matchup either for him, but you got to hang on to him. He's just too good, and he's way better than a 2-yard rushing performance. That's ridiculous.
All right, Dave, well, you're talking about the run defense. The Ravens have a ferocious run defense. Ferocious. You like that? And Chris Johnson feeling it in a very big way.
Yeah, Chris Johnson got bit by the ferocious defense for sure. His worst game as a pro. We called this coming. There was no way that Chris Johnson was going to go out there and beat up the Ravens. They're way too fast. This is the first time he went up against a 3-4 defense. And Chris Johnson is going to rebound from this, but you've really got to be careful starting any running back going up against the Ravens' run defense.
Okay, well, it's Week 5. It's a good time to reflect. Let's reflect about Kyle Orton. Who would have thought in the beginning about Kyle Orton and not Rex Grossman? At what point, if ever, do we consider Kyle Orton a legitimate fantasy quarterback?
Well, I would say after throwing for 334 yards that the time has come.
Now.
Yeah, certainly. 7 touchdowns, all of them coming in his last 3 games. And what's happening here is that defenses are stacking up against the run. They're saying, we're not going to let Matt Forte beat us. We're going to let Kyle Orton beat us. And Kyle Orton's saying, okay, I'm going to beat you. And look at what he's done. 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Carson Palmer, Mark Bulger, Derek Anderson, their numbers combined almost pale. They do pale in comparison compared to Kyle Orton. So Orton, better than those 3 fantasy quarterbacks. I'm saying it now. He's going to end up being a low-end number 1 fantasy quarterback before this season is over with. Right now, consider him a number 2. Wait to see what happens as teams start playing against the Bears. Eventually, it's going to be one of these 2 things. Either Orton's going to beat you or Forte's going to beat you, and it's going to be pick your poison against this Bears team. Defense, by the way, playing very, very good right now.
Also playing very, very well. The Patriots and the Giants, last year's Super Bowl teams. For the first time in franchise history, the Pats won in San Francisco. The Giants just steamrolled Seattle.
Yeah, and let's talk about the Patriots first, because that was a game that I certainly thought would give them trouble, but not so much trouble. You give Bill Belichick 2 weeks to prepare for anybody, and he's going to do well. But Matt Castle, that deep pass he had to Randy Moss, that's the stuff of Tom Brady. He tried a similar pass later in the game, and he got picked off. Castle's doing pretty well for himself. Now, let's move on to the Giants quarterback, Eli Manning. Just an amazing game. did what he did without Plaxico Burress catching the ball for him. Dominique Hickson really stepped up, and the Giants' run game also gave some great support there for Eli Manning. And now the question is this. Lauren Shehadi, you're a fantasy football player.
I am.
Who would you rather have, Eli Manning or Peyton Manning?
That's a tough one. You know, we were talking before, and a couple months ago, years ago, this question would not even be legitimate.
Yeah.
Now, I tell you what, Peyton, his poise under pressure in the fourth quarter,
Sure.
obviously incredible.
Well, he was given the game against Houston. Sage Rosenfeld's gift wrapped that game to him.
But Eli, I mean, he just takes control of that offense week in and week out in the NFC East, no doubt.
He's just stepping up. Great offensive line, great cast of characters with Eli Manning. Here's the difference, though. Peyton Manning was your first-round pick. Mm-hmm. Eli Manning was like your 7th or 8th round pick.
Incredible.
So if they're the same guy, but you've got one guy that was your 7th-round pick, you win, not the guy that's got him as a first-round pick.
Well, what about you, Dave? Who would you choose?
I'd take Eli because then
Really?
I'd be able to get a stud running back or somebody else with my first-round pick.
All right, there they are, words from the expert. If you want more words from the expert, join us every Sunday, Fantasy Football Today, 11 o'clock Eastern with Jason Horowitz. More football tonight. Enjoy. Take care.